giving him a bit more weathered look to his skin, and that's kind of how I remembered him. So that's my interpretation. To further add to that weathered look, I'm going to now make a new adjustment, a new layer from the top here, and we're going to call this one DB, which stands for Dodge and Burn. The mode needs to go into Overlay, and we need to tick this box here, fill with overlay neutral color 50%. And what we're going to do on this layer is to literally do what I just said, which is to dodge and burn, which is very similar to the traditional darkroom dodging and burning we used to do back in the day in the darkroom. And we do that with the dodge and burn tool, funny enough. Now we've got to be very careful with these not to go over the top with them. So we're going to click the burn tool first of all. We're going to put the range to shadows and exposure. We want to drop the exposure down to probably about 12%, somewhere around there, 12-13%, like so. And then we're going to literally get our tool and just go over some of these lines in George's face. Now again, you don't want to be doing this on your auntie's portrait because it's not the most flattering of effects, but it does bring out some of these textures in the wrinkles here of the face, and that's what I want to try and keep those lovely laughter lines, as we call them. And you're probably thinking there's not much going on at the moment, but if I turn this off now and back on, you can see we've made quite a bit of difference already. So again, you don't want to go over the top with the exposure, just keep the exposure down quite low. Change over to the dodge tool. Again, this time range set the highlights and just drop the exposure down again, about 11-12%, somewhere low around there. And just go over some of these highlights now on the nose, around the eyes, like so. And we keep building that up gently, like so. So that's how far we are at the moment. We don't want to go too mad, otherwise it's going to look very strange. But I'll carry on with that. I'll come back in a second. Right, so I've carried on with that a little bit more, and this is the before. This is after. So I think you agree it's made quite a difference. And as I said, you've got to hold back a little bit. You don't want it going too over the top because it's going to look a bit strange in the context of the whole image. But I think that works okay. So that's another little bit finished. Right, we're coming to the end of this tutorial now. So what I'm going to do is just select all these layers and make sure they're all linked together. That makes sure that they don't go walkabout, so if we knock anything. I'm going to add a new layer group and just drag all these into there. These ones anyway, not the background. And we'll just rename that one adjustments. And that way we're nice and tidy. You can obviously see where we are. So this is the stage we're at the moment. There's before, there's after, so quite a big difference there. What I'm going to do now is to make an empty layer. Hold down the Alt key, and we want to go to layers here, layers palette, go to merge visible, but we hold down the Alt key when we do that, and what that does is it will combine all these visible adjustments and layers here into a single layer. And we can actually turn these off now if you wanted to. So that's combined those. So we'll call this one stamp, and I'm going to go to filter, other, and high pass. And now you've got the high pass preview come up. I would recommend a fairly low radius. If you go too high, I don't think we're going to get enough sharpening happening. So no hard and fast rules, but have a little play with the slider. I'm going to use a setting of about 5.5 pixels for this image. Click OK. Now we're going to change the blend mode to soft light. Okay, there's before, there's after. Just zoom in so you can see that a little bit better. Before, after, so that's quite nicely sharpened that image up. We're just going to run that filter again, go to filter, high pass, and that will rerun the last settings, like so. can now duplicate this sharpening layer and add a layer mask. And what I'm going to do, I'll just fill that with black. That's the quickest way of doing it, and that just takes away that sharpening. I'm going to load the face selection from one of the masks that we did earlier by Command or Control clicking on it. Let me just zoom back out again. And now with our copy of our sharpening layer active, we can fill that with white, and that will just add a little bit more sharpening just to Georgie's face. So we've done a global sharpen. In fact, we'll rename this one now global sharpen, and this one we'll call face sharpen. It's a good idea to obviously make sure you name all your layers so you know where you are. Again, I'm just going to link these together so they don't move. So that's the one with just the face. Now that might be a little bit OTT, but we can always obviously now drop the opacity of that a little bit if we feel it's too much. So let's just have a look. So there's before, there's after on the sharpening. I think you can see that there, and that just sharpens the whole image quite nicely. And then we've done a little bit extra sharpening just on Georgie's face, like so. If we wanted to, what the other thing we could do, we just delete this layer mask. We could add a layer mask here again, make sure it's filled with black, so it's taking the adjustment away. If we wanted to, if we wanted a bit more precise sharpening, we could just go in and paint on the mask with white, and that would just give us a sharpening just where we want it. And that's another way of doing it. So we just pick out the eyes and the eyebrows here, and that will help drag the viewer's attention to those areas that bit more. I actually want quite a bit of sharpening all over this, so I'll probably revert that in a second to where we were. And that is pretty much near enough finished. One last thing I've done is just to add a layer group to the sharpening layers we've just done, so they're nice and tidy. And to finish off, I've added a levels adjustment layer on top of the stack here. And the reason I do that is I like to hold down the Alt key and just check that nothing's blowing out or clipping. So if you hold down the Alt key and just click on the highlights here, you can see if anything's clipping out to pure white. So we can just, I want this fairly high key, so we can bring it up a little bit. You want a little bit coming through, so you get some nice clean highlights, but we don't want it going pure white and looking overexposed. Same for the shadow end. I don't really want any heavy shadows in this particularly, so that's fine as it is. So that just assures you're not clipping or blocking up the shadows. So there's before, there's after. My very final act is to save this as a PSD file, which I've just done, and now I'm going to flatten it and then crop it. So that's now flattened. I'm going to get my crop tool, and I think this bit of space at the top here is really just wasted, so I'm going to crop him a little bit tighter, probably a little bit there. That should do us, and that just gives us a just nicer composition for the image. So there we have it. There's George. If you find yourself travelling around the islands of Greece and you get a Kos and you happen to go into the castle there, keep an eye out for George. I'm not sure if he's still about. He was obviously knocking on a little bit, but obviously in very good health. And you might just see him giving somebody a guided tour. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.